What's going on, everybody? It's Keandre from Hoop Intellect, and welcome to the Hoop Intellect podcast. In today's episode, we have another big-time guest, Rafael Barlow of NBA Draft Junkies. Now, I did have to cut a bit of this episode due to a few audio issues I had in the middle, but nonetheless, it was still a great pod. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe on all platforms, and let me know of a few people in the basketball world you would like to see on the show. Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to the Hoop Intellect Podcast, Episode 2. I am your host, Keandre, and today we have a special guest, one of the best in the YouTube draft space, Rafael Barlow of the NBA Draft Junkies. What's going on, man?
Not too much, man. How are you? Glad to be on.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, just been working.
I know, like, the people on your channel are seeing my content and vice versa, but I got like this inner rivalry with you, right? So I can post a video and it may do 1,000. You'll post a video and it does 5. I'm like, dang, he got me again. So now I'm like, all right, I gotta step it up. So yeah, I just have this inner rivalry, and it's just for me where I'm like, all right, I gotta pass him up. I gotta do a video that's gonna do more than his. And you're killing me every time. So I got to go back to the drawing board. But it's all good because I like seeing, like, you know, this draft space is, if it's getting competitive, because you remember a few years ago, it was just, it's like Draft Express had a monopoly on it. And so now that they've, went to ESPN, it's just opened the door for guys like me and you. And if it's competitive, if you're making me better because I'm losing in views, then it's making it better for everybody else. So I wanted to thank you for not only having me on as your second guest, but also just kind of like driving me to come up with different concepts because, like I said, man, you've been kicking my butt on the views.
Hey, man, I feel like it's enough space for all of us to eat. You do something a little bit different. We do similar things, but I mean, your content's different. Your perspective is different.
Right.
At the end of the day, just seeing a lot of the other guys in the space, just focusing on trying to be the best. Like, how can I separate myself and everything? So I think that's good. I think competition is good for all of us. But yeah, I mean,
It's great.
At the end of the day, I think this is a conversation a lot of people have been wanting to see from the both of us and everything. So I think it should be good. But yeah, so back to that initial question. I'm glad you did that because I feel like that was something that needs to be addressed. Just because, like, that's just kind of always there. Like, I see all your videos in my recommended and everything. I'm sure you see mine and everything. So
yeah, it was one you did. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give him that one. It was the mock draft starting off at 60. I was like, knowing the time that it takes, I was like, yeah, it took him like a week to do that.
Yeah, those take forever.
I've never done like a full 60 in one video. And then I think you did it in like under 30 minutes or something like that. I was impressed by that. I was like, he can have that one. I'm not going to be able to do that one.
Yeah,
but how I got started, man, it's been a long journey. I'd say how I really, really got involved was, I'd say 2010. I'm trying to give the short version. It can be such a long story, but I was living in LA, and when I was living in LA, I decided to move back to Dallas. I live in Dallas, and so right when I decided to move back, I came back here in Dallas, and I got a place. And then right when I got a place, I got a call talking about when I get back to LA, they got an internship with me for the LA Clippers. So I thought, like, okay, bet, that's dope. This is my dream. Getting an internship with an NBA team is close to impossible, man. Like, you can fill out those, you can send your resume on whatever teamwork.com and it's like one of a gazillion. Yeah. So I got the internship, and then they told me it was unpaid and I had to go back to school. I already graduated from college prior to that, but I had to go back to school to get college credit. So I was like, okay, dang. So ironically, I took PE classes for class credit at ELAC, the school that was on Last Chance U. So when I, saw that series, it just kind of took me back. How I was just taking some BS PE class, like playing kickball and learning basketball fundamentals, but I just needed a class credit. Well, what ended up happening is the money that I spent on getting a place back in Dallas, I didn't put it on my apartment in LA. I was trying to figure out some way how I'm going to make this work. How was I going to have enough money? And LA's dumb expensive, but how I was going to have enough money to live in LA, take these terrible PE classes, but then at the same time do this internship with the Clippers where I have to be there during the day and then also on game nights, which pretty much impossible. Long story short, I ended up getting evicted from my apartment. So I stayed with a friend, and then on my way to get my paperwork signed, because the PE teacher at East Los Angeles Community College was like, I'm not going to sign your paperwork now because you're going to quit. You're not going to come to class anymore. So I had to, go through that whole process. So while I was on my way to get my paperwork, like the engine in my car completely went out. I ended up not being able to go to work. It was probably like within the first week of the internship, and they fired me. Like pretty much like, you can't be missing your first day. You didn't have your paperwork in before the internship started. So that was a pivotal point, because at that point I could have just said, you know what, maybe it's not meant to be. I could have gave up. So I ended up coming back to Dallas, no car, no money. And because I spent all my money on a place. And then I just reached out to the Texas Legends, and I was like, hey, I know you guys are, a new organization. I like to intern. I know it's not going to be paid. And so from there, I drove the team van. I did laundry. I did everything. Like I set up the arena before the games. I did DVDs for the referees, a bunch of stuff. And so another break for me was, prior to that, I had a job where I was like part of an internship program. So I knew how to basically I was recruiting college students for internships, like Fortune 500 companies. So that was my background. So I told the Legends all right, hey, I know I'm an intern. I know I'm not getting paid, but if you just give me some business cards and give me a desk, I'll run your internship organization. I know what interns or college students are looking for when they want an opportunity to work with a pro team. They don't want to just stand there and not do anything. I'll delegate tasks that are based off their major. They agreed. They gave me that opportunity. So now I looked like I was part of the staff, even though I was an unpaid intern. And then I started running the camera for NBA TV. And then that led to another break, which was Chris Douglas Roberts. At that time, I want to say it was 2012, maybe. He had just got cut by the Lakers. And I was driving a team van, and he's like, man, I'm better than these dudes. Man, he was like, if you want to work in the NBA one day, he's like, can you give me a reason why I'm not in the NBA when? And he was naming players that, he was better than. And I said, the only thing that I think is separating you is you were just cut by the Lakers. You and Kobe like the ball in the same spots. Your game doesn't necessarily complement his. Now, I knew his stats. I was like, you've only made 12 threes in your first 3 years. So all you got to do is just be able to knock down corner threes. That led to me ended up training him. I had never trained a pro athlete before. And I wouldn't necessarily call it training, but I just came up with a game plan where he shot 500 threes. From there, we developed a friendship. Whenever he traveled, he brought me with him. He brought me places like New York, like Carmelo Anthony had he called it I forgot what it was called. But anyway, it ended up being on HBO when they did the Kevin Durant documentary. So it was Carmelo, Durant, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. was there, David Lee, Nerlens Noel, J.R. Smith. And it was just a bunch of guys, Kemba Walker, Tobias Harris, was just playing pickup for a week. I was there. I got to be around that. Chris brought me to Charlotte with him when he signed with the Bobcats, then with LA. So that kind of gave me credibility amongst other NBA players and such. So, but I always wanted to do draft stuff. So the next big break came for me when I want to say was 2016. I went to Paris with my parents, and it was just a family trip. And I tweeted, sorry, this is kind of long-winded, but I tweeted that I would love to live overseas. I had been on some of these basketball tours. I've been to China, I've been to Europe on tours. excuse me, but I've always wanted to like live in another country. And I tweeted it, honest to God truth. 10 minutes later, I get a text from a friend of mine that's an agent. And he says, "You would really want to live overseas in Europe?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I might have something for you." So that was like first week of June, maybe. By September 2016, I was living in Europe, in Istanbul, Turkey. And then from there, I was supposed to like document Epe Udo's season. So he was playing over in Istanbul, and he wanted to document his season, create like a YouTube thing. So creating content, but I had plenty of free time. Like I had nothing but time to do, and I decided to start my NBA Draft Junkies website. And then while I was over there, I went to like a lot of the different international tournaments. And the first tournament I went to, it was like the under 18s. It was supposed to be that summer, but for whatever reasons, it got pushed back to December. And in that particular tournament, it was Frank Ntilikina, Sekou Doumbouya, Isaiah Hartenstein, um, John and Musa, who played for the Nets for a little bit, a few of those guys. So that's when I was like, dang, it's a lot of talent over here that, the American people don't really know about. And at the time, Sekou might have been like 15. Nobody had ever heard of him. He just like literally came out of nowhere. And then from there, I was like, maybe I can find a niche for myself as knowing these international prospects, especially being like a Black person from the States, knowing international prospects. So that has, been like my story, but that has kind of been like my niche that has helped me kind of separate myself from everybody else that's doing this. Sorry for the long answer.
No, that's a really dope story. I didn't know you had all that in your background and everything. It gives a lot of context. It makes me appreciate, what you do even more at this point. So,
Thanks.
did you have like a background in video editing, camera work? How did you decide like I'm gonna do YouTube and like really upload videos and do things like that?
So that's funny. So my degree was in broadcast journalism. And then like when I graduated from school, I got a job. Like I didn't want to um, work for like a TV station in the middle of nowhere. I graduated from Jackson State, which now is pretty popular because of Deion Sanders. But yeah, I didn't want to get a job working in Shoestring, Mississippi, covering
Yeah.
whatever. So I ended up getting a job. And then, the longer it was that I worked, the more stuff I started accumulating, like buying nice cars. I bought a house and all that. It just put me further and further away to make it possible to work in a field that I wanted to work in. And I want to say when I started working with the Legends, I just saw that, there was another guy that was actually one of my interns. He was editing videos on iMovie, the little templates that come with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can do that. And then I started doing it. So, and I left this part out of the story. So one day, CDR was like the first NBA player. I mean, I guess I knew somebody, but the first NBA player that I really had access to. And I had mentioned to him, I said, man, I want to document your story of your planning of his comeback to the NBA, because he had played in Europe during the lockout. And then I guess that kind of worked against him. He was like, nah, man, I'm cool. I don't, because he, at the time, he was kind of embarrassed that he wasn't in the NBA. And then one day he hit me. He's like, you know what? Get the camera. Let's start rolling. And I was really just basically covering stuff like, I think the first episode, I forgot what it was, but I named it I'm Not a Star. And it was kind of after the Rick Ross song, I'm Not a
Yeah.
Star. And it was basically to talk about just how NBA players are regular people. We all think of the LeBrons and the Durants, but we're not, the other 300 something guys that are just role players. And it was just him like going to the store and him like buying diapers for his kids, Super Bowl party, his workouts. And then I just kind of realized like, okay, this is cool. But this was like 2012, before everybody had a YouTube channel. So I don't want to say I was like a pioneer in it, but I want to say like State of Nate was one of the first ones. I think
Mm.
Lou Will had one. It was maybe like 5 guys that like had these little web series going. And then from there, another situation that really made me focus on it. And this is a crazy story also that I left out. So I knew like, all right, if I want to work in the NBA or be different, I want to learn how to train. So I brought an iPad to the gym, and there's a guy named Tim Martin. Tim is like a pretty, big time trainer here in Dallas, and he was training Josh Howard and Devin Harris. So I went to film the workout with a iPad. So I had was an iPad, and I was filming it not to create content, to learn. I was just gonna steal whatever drills that he was doing, and he called me maybe like 2 hours after the workout, and he says, "Hey, Josh's manager wants to know, do you have a video of him dunking?" Because at that time, Josh had tore his ACL and he was just coming back, and he just wanted a video of him dunking to show that he was healthy. So I thought, like, what would I want to see if I'm like an NBA general manager? So every single clip of him like jumping off that surgically repaired knee, I made it. So when I sent it, his manager called me. He was like, "Yo," he was screaming, but I didn't understand like what was he screaming about, because this is a basic video. It's like the stuff that you see people do in their phones now. No transitions, or no. I think maybe I was using what's the first transition everyone learns, like the little fadeaway
Oh yeah,
transition.
yeah, yeah.
And 2 days later, one of my friends from college who lives in DC calls me. He's like, "Is there another dude named Rafael Barlow?" So I doubt it. He was like, a video you made is on the Washington Post." I was like, "The Washington Post?" He's like, "Yeah." So his manager reached out to, I think, the guy Michael Lee, who's, I think he was a beat writer for the Wizards at the time, and they posted the video of him working out. And then Josh ended up signing with, I want to say, Utah a few weeks later. So now I was like, dang, when the first video that I ever really published went to Washington Post. Then a few weeks later, there was a team that was going to China on a travel, it was like a travel team that was going to China. And I was filming again, trying to steal drills or whatever. And the guy that put the team together says, "Hey, we need a guy that's going to go on this trip with us to video. So guys can have highlight tapes and film that they can send the teams." He's like, "Can you go?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I didn't have a passport at the time. And so he told me, he says, "Look, if you want to do anything in basketball professionally, you got to get a passport. This is the global game, and you have to be able to go at any given time when you get a call." So the opportunity came up a year later. I had a passport, and then I went to China on like a 18-day tour. And then from there, I started getting offers to go on other tours. And I was like, all right, so if I get good at this camera stuff, it will open doors that, I wouldn't be able to get into without it. Everybody likes content. So from there, it just kind of turned into combining my basketball stuff, the stuff that I wanted to do, with video stuff, traveling. So it's all been like a perfect storm of events. But I mean, I'm not going to say it's been easy. It's been hard. I've had a lot of difficulties, but yeah, so that's kind of how it all came together for me.
Yeah, so at what point did you start doing like the scouting report type content? I know I remember like seeing the Chris Douglas Roberts stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and the Josh Howard, because I lived in Dallas
Okay.
06, 07. So
Okay.
that's around the time that they were in the finals. He was
Yep.
really good. That was just kind of on my mind, just going around YouTube, just being a kid,
Yep.
watching basketball stuff. So I remember all that. But yeah, so at what point did like the scouting stuff become part of something that you wanted to do on YouTube? And, just like what kind of motivated you to keep going? Because it can be rough at times,
Yeah.
the views aren't coming. If that's what you put your value in, you might just go ahead and quit or whatever. But yeah, so what was that like?
Yeah, I don't know the first. So actually on my YouTube channel, I never, I mean, I wanted it to like get to the point where it's big, but it was the same YouTube channel I had for all the other crap that I had before that. So if a person goes on my NBA Draft Junkies YouTube channel and they go all the way back to like 2011, you're gonna see like backpack drives. You're gonna see some crazy stuff. I want to say the first. Let me think. I think maybe like 2014, before I had NBA Draft Junkies. I think I did a video with Okafor, and no, it might even been on Vimeo. I don't think I put it on YouTube, but it was like comparing Okafor and Towns. I did one on like Trey Burke. I made one video that I said Alex Lynn is gonna be an NBA superstar. Because I saw like the talent.
Yeah.
So I'm glad, those videos are so far down that nobody's pulling them up and questioning me. And then I want to say, so when I was in Turkey, like I said, I had time. Like I literally had nothing but time. Like I would go to practice. While I'm at practice, I'm just kind of sitting there and watching and learning. And I had nothing but time. So I created the website on my own. I had to learn how to create the website. And then I just started doing guys in the 2017 draft. So I think one of the first ones I did was Justin Patton because he's from Omaha, where I'm from, Omaha, Nebraska. So I did one on him. I think I did one on like Markel Fultz. And then every year I just started doing more. 2000, I want to say I kind of started to like get a little traction and buzz, maybe 2019 draft. And like you said, man, it's hit or miss. I compare it to like being a rapper, right? You can make music for like 5 years and then one video or one song takes off and then you kind of get a little bit of buzz and then now you're chasing that buzz over again and then it's like and you just never know, like that's why you kind of have to do it for yourself in a sense because I mean I think today like the most views I ever got was like Gogo Batadzi. Like and it was a video that I just kind of dropped because I knew that he was creating a name for himself, but I didn't realize the whole country of Georgia was going to watch it. One I did last year, early 2019, was Killian Hayes, and that was before he kind of like took off. That one did well. Of course, if you, and I'm pretty sure you can relate, if you do a video of a guy and then the Lakers draft him, you're gonna get like 100,000 views. Like I think Talon Horton Tucker, that was one that probably had like 500 views. And then the Lakers drafted him and it got like 80,000 in a matter of days. So you just never know. Like if I do a video on like Zion or Cade or any of the bigger name guys, I feel like they don't take off like I would think they do. But if I do one on an international prospect or somebody that nobody heard of and it just kind of takes off around draft time. So it can be depressing in a sense. So at the end of the day, you just kind of got to make the video for how you want to make it, and then it's going to do what it does.
I see like a lot of your international stuff. You're really ahead of the curve on a lot of these guys. So what is that like experience like? I know you were at the U19 USA, like what is that going over there to see all these games and everything? What are those experiences like?
I mean, they're dope. Living over there was a great experience. And I know like on the outside looking in, people may be like, dang, he must got a lot of money going those trips. So so the year I was with Epe in 2016-17, it was a perfect storm of events for my life. I got to learn the international stuff. I had time to make a website. I had time to like watch film all day. Then he won MVP of the EuroLeague. The EuroLeague, and they gave him 1 million airline miles on Turkish Airlines, and he had like maybe 2 years to use them. So he was just like, I can't use all these. I can't use all these miles. So he was like, isn't there a basketball tournament over there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, just send me your information. So I like that summer, I like went to Greece for like a week, came back for like 2 weeks, went back again. And then, so yeah, I was able to watch like the under 18, under 19 games. And that was summer 2000, let me see, 19, 18. And so those guys are in this draft class coming up. So it's like I wish I got to try to find a way to go this summer if possible. So that means I'll be able to like say I watch guys in the 22, 23 class. So, but yeah, those games they're fun to watch. You kind of like got to do your research in a sense on who's the guy to look for. And then it's also kind of tough to evaluate if Team USA is in there because they may be so much more dominant that like the last time I was there, they had Cade on the team. They had Halliburton. They had I'm missing somebody.
Suggs, Jalen Green.
Jalen Green. They had Evan Mobley. I think came like the last few days, and so their second team would have won the championship. So, but then in that tournament, like I saw Leandro Balmero was in that tournament. A few other guys that I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are fun. I mean, you're watching basketball all day, and but you just get a chance to see like the different styles. Like one of my favorite things to watch is like Argentinian players. Like they all have this flash and flair that you can tell they're from Argentina. They're fundamentally sound, but they just have this flash to their games. Then you got guys like, I mean, I tell you one, Alperen Şengün. I didn't think he was going to be as good as he is, and I just thought like he's gonna have like a really good career in Europe, but his the jump that he's made has been crazy. Like he's lost a little bit of weight, and so it's kind of like, it just makes me feel like, dang, I was wrong on him, but it was so early that nobody knew. And now everybody's starting to catch on to him. But I saw him a couple of summers ago when he wasn't as good as he is now.
Yeah, I think you have a really unique perspective, being over there in the international, just obviously, who you are and how you think basketball and how you think the game is um, a big part of it, most of it. But, being able to have that context that a lot of us just have no idea about, I think that's
Yeah.
really valuable to the game.
Yeah, I'm thankful, man. I'm so thankful for the opportunities. But like I can say, I spent years just trying to figure out my niche. Like I knew I wanted to work in pro basketball in some capacity. I I was able to say like I had NBA clients that I was training, but I still don't label myself like a trainer. I can just kind of watch film and say, hey, I think this is what you need to work on this summer, just to, just kind of come up with a game plan for that. I knew I wasn't an X and O's guy, and I knew I could do some stuff with the video, which is even tough now. Like I'm sure you've seen some of these highlight videos on Instagram, like these 16, 17-year-old videographers. I can't mess with them, man.
Oh
They
goodness.
they're so good. So it's kind of like I just gotta find a niche and just kind of make it work for me. And so luckily I had the resources and the connections to allow me to live overseas. I can create my own content. And that's just kind of helped me out. And but yeah, I'm just thankful for it. It's definitely been a blessing, but it's been a challenge and a long process.
Yeah, really, really dope story. I'm glad that we got to have this conversation to give more people the background of how you came to be at this point. I feel like a lot of the times people just see NBA draft junkies or Hoop Intellect or whoever else. They just think that you kind of just
Came
popped
out.
up out of nowhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a long process for all of us. You put a lot of work in.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work. I mean, so I guess you can say my journey really started like 2010. So it's 2011 now, and I'm just, like I had a friend who made a comment once about his business. He's like, I'm at the top of the bottom. He's like, there's the high companies, there's the ones you know about, and he was like, I'm at the bottom still, but I'm at the top. Like I'm a few steps away from everyone knowing who I am, and then the next step from there is being like, like the ESPNs or the whatever. So it's a process, man. I'm pretty sure it's been a process for you, because on the outside looking in, it looks like you just kind of came out of nowhere. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, you've been on all the major platforms, so but I'm sure there's a story behind that too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't want to get too repetitive about that. I kind of talked about it a lot on the last one, but yeah, it's just been a pretty long road. I started my channel in 2018, fall of 2018, but that whole time I'm just kind of trying to teach myself how to edit, how to, do things on Photoshop, because I taught myself everything
Yeah,
on this stuff. So yeah, just trying to get good enough to actually like, I don't think people realize how hard it is to like actually make one scouting report video or
five
one.
minute video.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a long process, trying to teach yourself how to make graphics and all that kind of stuff just to make one video. So, you know, once I got to the point where I felt confident in that, then I started uploading the scouting report stuff and making those type of videos, because for a long time I had done stuff on medium.com,
Mm-hmm.
all this draft stuff, all types of NBA stuff, just trying to combine those things,
Yeah.
find a niche in the game in that point. So yeah, that's pretty much the really, really short story of that. And at the
Well,
time, I didn't even have a computer, so I'm in the library every day for
oh wow.
10 hours trying to figure it out. And the computer doesn't save; it shuts off every 10 minutes. I can't record voiceovers. Uh,
And
yeah,
that's the
so
thing that like about your videos is that like I know the time it takes. So I give you a story of how you motivated me. So I was, maybe the past few years, I was just dropping the videos, right? And I put the little graphic on there. And then I started doing voiceovers. Then I was like, man, this is taking way too long to do a voiceover. So I stopped doing voiceovers. And then I click on one of your videos that did numbers. I'm like, dang, he did a voiceover. This is what people want. And so, and like those voiceovers take forever because you're trying to match up what you're saying to the clips. So, like, do you do the voiceover first and then get the clips, or do you do the clips and then the voiceover?
I actually don't know. It depends. Like those first look videos I was doing, it's
Yep.
so difficult because you want to do, what they teach you in journalism or broadcast school is see dog, say dog. So you want to match up things and be able to, point things out in slow motion and put some graphics on there to show what's going on the court while
Yep.
you're talking, right? Um, but yeah, I think I might write out a script and then try to fit things to it. Just leave some space in between.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a really difficult thing. That's why when people ask me why I don't have voiceovers the entire video, is because it would take me so long, and I'd be able to do like probably maybe the lottery prospects, and
Yeah.
but they'd
See,
be really detailed.
I was doing the whole video like 4 or 5 minutes, and then I would put the clips together first. Then I'd write the script. Then it got to the point where like I don't know, maybe I have adult ADHD now. If I'm sitting at home, I'll write a sentence, then I'll get on Instagram, then I'll get on Twitter. So what I would have to do is I would go for a walk. I would take my phone and I would walk around the block, and then I would type the stuff out. And then by the time I walked my mile, I had a script. And then by the time I got back and read it, it was like, dang, this is only 3 minutes, but the video is 5 minutes. Do I want to cut these clips out? No, this clip is too good to cut out. And then you just so it's man, it's a process. That's why I said like when I saw you did that 2 round with the voiceovers, I was like, he got this. I can't mess with that.
Yeah, those videos, I know people like them a lot, but I always say like you're just gonna have to wait on these because I can't I can't make these as much as people want them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's tough, but man, you're doing a good job at it. And even for you, like you started in 18, here it is, 21. It's probably maybe not even been a full 3 years. And I mean, you've been on every major platform. So you're kind of like on this fast track. So I mean, just think like in 10 years, you got no telling where you'll be. So I mean, just keep it up.
appreciate it, man. But I think we can go ahead and get into, some draft conversation. I think the easiest way to kind of start things off is talk about the top 10, specifically the top five. I wanted to ask you who is in your top five because I think a lot of people have pretty much come to a general consensus. I'm wondering if you had sort of the same.
Yeah, my top five is the same. The order may switch, every week. But right now, I'd say, well, Cade is my lock for number one. As of today, I got Mobley number two, and then 3, 4, and 5. It's the two Jalen's between the two Jalen's at 3 and 4, and then right now I have Kuminga at number 5. But I think
Yeah.
that's the consensus. I've started to see maybe a couple people throw in like a Scotty Barnes in their top 5. I think that's probably the first name that comes up in the top 5 as far as prospects that are, as far as guys that could bump mostly Kuminga out. I mean, I've seen some people not have Jalen Green in their top 5, But if there is one consistent name, then I would say it's Scotty Barnes.
Yeah. So in my top five, I have Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, and then I have Moses Moody at number five.
Oh,
Kaminga is
okay.
number six, but I really am a big fan of Moses Moody's game. Uh, I think he's got a lot more potential than a lot of people have talked about, but that's just my opinion. Um,
Yeah, I'm hoping to get him on my podcast. I friends with one of his high school teammates that played at Mount Verde with him. And so, I sent the feelers out. Now I'm just waiting to see if I can get him on. Because I did a video on him pretty early this season.
mhm.
And somebody that's close with him reached out, and then they sent the video to his mom, and she followed me on Twitter. So I guess that's always good. And then it's kind of like his name started taking off a little bit from there, because in my opinion, he wasn't, I mean, he was highly recruited, obviously, but I don't think anybody saw him as a one and done lotto lock at
Yeah,
this time last year.
yeah, he kind of fell under the radar a little. I mean, how under the radar can you really be if you're a top 50 guy in high school? But
Yeah.
with all those stars at Montverde, I feel like he kind of went to the background. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his game. I think what he can do on both ends, sort of the 3 and D baseline, a skill set.
Yeah.
That's what I like at the top five. But who is your number six? I'm curious.
My number six would be Barnes.
Okay.
As of now, I still have some concerns about the lack of offense. And then, in today's NBA, if you're not a scorer, then it can kind of make things hard for your teammates, because they're going to put the other team's best offensive player on you to get rest. And you look at like the Mavs, they'll put Luka on the least threatening offensive player, allows him to float so he can get the rebound and turn missed shots into fast breaks. And then, I mean, it also could be fit. Every team wants like another ball handler and playmaker, passer on the floor, which he would provide that. But I still think he's kind of an interesting fit for teams. On one hand, you can say he's a plug and play guy, but I would just like to see a little bit more offense out of him.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be a little bit difficult for him offensively should the shot not develop because
Or
he's
does he
not.
want to shoot? Like
That's
it just
true.
seems like, the Draymond Green comparisons there's some similarities there.
Yeah.
And then there are times where, and I'm a big Draymond fan. Like, he's one of my favorite players, probably because I've had to defend him so much, for those that say he's trash. But there are times when I think Draymond kind of hurts the Warriors offense, as much as good stuff as he does, and the chemistry he has with Steph. But there are times where he's just not looking at the rim at all. Like, he throws Steph a pass and then he's looking to rescreen and dribble handoff or something to get the ball right back to Steph. And it works because it's Steph. It works because he only needs like a millisecond to get his shot off. I don't know how effective it would be. I mean, I think Draymond would help any team win.
Yeah.
But the fact that teams are playing like 4-on-5, I think Steph is able to make up for it. And so I don't know if Scotty Barnes is going to get into a situation in his career where he's able to play with a Steph that makes up for the fact that sometimes he just does not look to score.
Yeah, like you mentioned, that team fit is probably gonna, be say a lot about where he lands in the draft, like numbers wise, will he go top 10?
Yeah.
Will he slide back? Or, how his career ends up panning out. So it should be really interesting. I like him as a player a lot. I love the energy he brings to the court. So I'm really interested to see what, how his career turns out.
Yep. He was on that Team USA team also.
Yep. Yeah. I posted about that on Twitter like a while back, but that U19 team I feel like there's gonna be a lot of stories on that as we get closer to draft time. Just
I
because
forgot.
there's
I
so
forgot
many
Suggs was on the
people.
team.
Yeah, Suggs, uh, like you said, Mobley barely even played. Halliburton last year. Then you got guys like Jeremiah Robinson Earl was on
Likely was
there.
playing more minutes than Suggs.
Yeah, he was playing good. That's my guy.
Yeah.
OSU. So, and
Okay.
I know he's from the Dallas area. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it seemed like half the team is.
yeah. Who's your number seven?
Number 7, it's similar. It could be fit, but I like Jalen Johnson. I
Mm.
think that again, it could be fit. I could actually see him falling out of the lottery because if his intel doesn't come back great. But I think that he has some skills that you can build around and develop. But he's a weird prospect to me also because like what I see on film, and tell me if you feel the same way. When I see
Mhm.
his shot on film, I don't believe in it. But he was efficient. Like I want to say he was over 50% from the floor and 40%. I mean, he shot a good percentage from three, but the eye test is not there. But it's like the opposite for Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's percentages weren't there, but I really am buying into his long term potential as a shooter.
Yeah, I agree there. I think he was a bit rigid, just form wise.
Yeah,
And
and he has some bad misses, like some
yeah,
bricks.
yeah, and dating back to high school, he's never really been like a knockdown shooter off the dribble or
Yeah,
really he's trying to get to the basket at the end of the day. I think it's really interesting to see where people have Jalen Johnson. Um, Similarly to Scotty Barnes, like you mentioned, team fit is going to decide a lot about him.
consistency.
Yeah, whether he has the ball, whether teams are going to give him the ball or not,
Yeah.
just things like that. My number 7 is actually Keon Johnson. I'm interested to hear where you have him. Is he in your top 10?
Yeah. So on my last mock, I had him going number 7. I like him a lot. I like the upside. He's still a little raw.
Hmm.
And somebody made a comment on my YouTube page about James Booknight being way more polished than Keon Johnson, which I can agree. But it just kind of made me think like, when we're doing like these evaluations, how much are we projecting for upside as opposed to what we see right now? Like to me, right now, James Booknight is a lot more polished, but it seems that everybody is favoring Keon Johnson because he's younger and there's less games of film to evaluate as far as like throughout their college career. And I mean, James Booknight is a really good athlete, very good athlete, but I think Keon is on another level of athleticism in a sense. But I like him a lot. I've been on record of saying like best case scenario, he could be like a Zach LaVine type, just based off of their athleticism. I like how he has the ability to stop on a dime and elevate over the top of guys. So I think if he can work on his handle and his offensive creativity, he should be able to get off his shot against anybody. But those are mid-range shots. As far as like, when I say, getting to a spots and elevating over the top, which, he may not go to a team that doesn't want that. And so if he doesn't develop that part of his game, then he's definitely going to have to develop as an outside shooter. He's got to, I mean, like the baseline of skills and natural gifts are there. It's just a matter of, finding like a good development coach and the work ethic to like, put it all together. Kind of like Jaylen Brown in a sense. Like, and I said the same thing about Kuminga. When I saw Jaylen Brown come out of Cal, I saw a guy that I didn't know what he did best. Like, you couldn't say he was a shooter. You couldn't say he was a great slasher. You couldn't say he was a great ball handler. He just did a little bit of like everything. And he had the physical tools, the NBA size, everything that projected to, that you can work with, but he put it together. And so I kind of see some similarities for Keon Johnson. He just has enough of everything and he's just gonna have to put it together. Once he does, then I mean the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of, if not the best athlete in this class. I think some of these clips that he has where he's in traffic, jumping off of 2 feet,
Yeah.
rising up over people, like that's some legitimate stuff. And
Yeah.
you look what he can do as a defender. I wish he was a little bit taller. I'm not sure that he's actually all the way 6'5".
Yeah.
um but like you said, at the end of the day, all his attributes, everything that he has shown, there is long term, there is somebody who can be a really really good player in there. So
Yep. And then everybody's buying in the upside nowadays.
yeah, for sure. So at number 8, who do you have?
Number 8, I would say Moody.
Mm,
So I like I mean, I think that he plays a very team friendly game. I think even if he ends up being like a 3-and-D guy, I think he plays a winning style of basketball. I would like to see more like ball handling and more like pick and roll stuff out of him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he can do it or not. He just wasn't given the opportunity to do it. So I mean, I guess we'll see maybe like in some of his workouts or however team uses him next year. But I do see that I think he had more than what he was able to show.
Yeah, for sure. And who rounds out your top 10? We'll just do it like that.
So top 10, let's see. I'm gonna put Usman Garuba in my top
Mm,
10 now.
yeah.
I'm gonna put him in my top 10. I think that he also plays a very winning style of basketball. I mean, it's tough to play in the EuroLeague, especially for a team like Real Madrid, a competitive team at such a young age. I think he's a plus defender already. He'll be able to, at the minimum, be a good defender, energy guy. He's shown some flashes of being able to be a good shooter. Not, I shouldn't say good shooter, but he's shown
Yeah.
flashes of being able to knock down
Hmm.
shots. And really, like they're just kind of playing him in the corner, which is not really his strength, but he's been able to make it work. He does show some flashes again of being able to put the ball on the floor. Like I've seen him make some quick decisions. I think he's a good passer. My comp for him, best case scenario, I think he could be like a Paul Millsaps type player if he develops the outside shot and how Millsap was. Like if you put length on him and he couldn't post the guy up, he could kind of get out to mid post, knock down the mid range jumper, put the ball on the floor. If you put a smaller guy on him, he was able to, post him up. But he was such a like dominant rebounder coming into the NBA, coming out of Louisiana Tech. But he just added so much to his game over time, and I mean he's been playing a while, so
Yeah.
it's got to be like year 12 or 13 or something like that for him. So I think Garuba has some of those same similarities. I like Shingun out of Turkey. I mean, we haven't seen a young big put up these type of numbers in Europe, not to my knowledge. And he's playing like sometimes you have guys on teams in Europe and they're young and they're not better than the guys ahead of them, so they're getting drafted based off of what they did versus their age group. And Shinguni, I mean, you can make a case and say he's the best player in Turkey right now. And Turkey's a competitive league. I mean, I think the ACB is the best domestic league, which is the league in Spain. But I would say Turkey is second, and he's putting up like roughly 20 and 10 every night. So him, I think Isaiah Jackson could be
Mm,
in that range because he's kind of like Keon Johnson in a sense, raw and athletic, but you see the upside. Davion Mitchell,
yeah.
he's someone whose name has
Well,
risen up a lot of boards, but then there's a
yeah.
lot of people who are kind of skeptical still because he had like one good season of shooting and the free throw percentage isn't all that great for a guard. And then he didn't the fact that he doesn't get to the foul line. So yeah, I mean my top 10 is kind of fluid in a sense. It
Yeah.
like changes. Like it's changed since this morning.
Yeah, I just recently on the last big board that I did, I got Garuba in there in the top 10. When you look at the modern NBA, a big who can switch, play guard multiple positions, all those,
Plays hard.
yeah, all those
Yeah.
steals he gets on the perimeter. I think teams are gonna love that. And then at the baseline, you got somebody who's going to, do all those things defensively, give you energy. And yeah, I think every winning team wants somebody like that.
What I like about him is that under 18 team in Spain, he actually led them to the gold medal over Shingun's team, and I was at that game. And so he played that winning style there. So he was able to win basically as the man on his team, but then he was able to transition and play winning basketball as like a role player on Real Madrid. And so I think that he is one of these guys that may not put up like crazy numbers in the NBA, but I think he's going to impact wins and losses, which is, the most important thing.
How do you feel about Zaire Williams? He's somebody who I've seen placed wherever and whenever, in the on draft boards and everything. I think he's a guy who has a lot of upside, dating back to high school. But I was curious to hear your opinion on where you would have him on your big board is sort of area, and just how you think of him as a prospect.
He's tough because, and I struggle with this. So when I look at a guy like Zaire Williams, if I didn't know him prior to going to Stanford, would he be a first round pick? Because the production, I mean, the numbers, I don't remember them off the top of my head right now, but he wasn't efficient at all.
Yeah.
And then when I watch him, I'm like, okay, was he healthy? I know he had some injuries at the beginning of the year. So I want to at least consider that. Like, he didn't look explosive. I know, like, the first few games, he had a huge knee brace on. So it's like, okay, all right. Do I know who he is because of the hype? And then is he not living up to the hype because he wasn't healthy? Is he not able to do certain things because he's so skinny and he can't handle the physicality? But at the end of the day, with his size and ability to make shots off the dribble and, play pick and rolls as a wing, you have to be intrigued by that. But I just didn't see the production out of him that I was expecting. But like I said, again, it could be related to him not being healthy.
Yeah, I think sort of injuries at the beginning of the season. I've heard some things about there was possible injury in the middle of the season, and the fact that Stanford couldn't even have like normal practices to start the
Yeah.
year. They were in like hotels for like 40 days or something
Yeah.
like that. I think it was just a really bad combination for him in that program this year. So I feel like that has to weigh in at least somewhat when talking about him. But I actually really liked what he could do defensively. They stuck him on a lot of guards this year, and that's who he was mostly guarding. I think he did a pretty good job. And then like you said, the shot making potential and what he showed in high school and everything. I feel like I'm always I'm always somebody who tries not to look at that as much, when they go to the next level, because, at this point you got to show something
Yep.
different, prove it again. Um, but I think, you look back and see what he was doing possibly when he was more healthy, was
Yeah.
factoring at least somewhat.
I mean, you look at like Jaden McDaniels this year.
Yeah.
He fell, but because his freshman year wasn't as productive as most people expected. I mean, I know he was top 10 on a lot of guys' boards coming into last season. And then, I mean, nobody has ever questioned his talent and his skill level, but he's been good for Minnesota this year. And so Zaire could, be in that same situation to where he falls. He could fall to late first round, and then he could end up having a productive rookie year where he outplays where he was drafted. And like I said, I wouldn't be shocked by that at all.
Yeah. Where would you place him in sort of a range right now?
Ooh. Well, actually, I feel like with this draft, I mean, for most people, the top 5 or 6 is set, but I feel
Mhm.
like 7 through 20 could just be
Yeah.
all over the place. So on my last mock, I had him like going 23rd, but
Okay.
I could see him going 8 and I could see him going 28. You just never know.
Yeah. I think we should talk about a few of the players who are a little bit polarizing. There's a lot of hype around them from high school and other things like that. One guy you mentioned earlier was Davion Mitchell. You know, people don't. There are some people who really like him, think he's a top 5, 6 pick, and then there's some people who think he's not even a first rounder, based on his age and like the shooting things, like you had said. What do you think about him as a player, and why do you have him sort of in that top 10 range?
Well, one, I like his ability to create off the dribble, and the shooting is. I know it's like 1 year, but it's like on one hand, some people are saying, well, it was an outlier year shooting, and I get that based off the numbers. Or it could be that he put in the work, like he put in the work and knew that this was an area that he needed to improve on, and he made strides. So I like him. Like, my one knock on him is, or I should say two in a sense, is that I think he should get to the free throw line more. Like, he has the burst to get there, but for whatever reasons, I think he may average like 2 free throw attempts per game.
Yeah.
And then the free throw percentage. Like I don't want my guard shooting in the mid 60s. But he was able to play winning basketball. I think I would have had him in that range even if Baylor didn't make that national championship run. I think it helped him out. I mean, I forgot which publication had him like going 6 or 7, something like that. I don't think he climbs that high without their national championship run. But he's a good passer. Not like a crazy creative passer or, like this big time playmaker, but he makes the right decisions. And I think that he can play winning basketball. And on top of that, at the very minimum, I think that he's going to be a good defender.
Yeah.
And so with his, with his strength and his athleticism and just the effort that he puts in on defense, I think he can be like, I think even if his offense isn't clicking, he could be like how Lou Dort was last year. And Dort was like he was a gunner at Arizona State, but he didn't get touches on offense last year. And then he just turned into like a defensive menace. And then he was able to this season show some, the offensive ability that he showed at Arizona State. And I think Mitchell could be like that in a sense,
Yeah. I really like watching him play. I think he is definitely a top 20 guy in the class. I think it's going to depend on a lot of things, a lot of teams' opinions about players his age. He will turn 23 before next season. The track record of players that old going in the lottery isn't great. Um, I'm not one to ever like use the past to like judge this certain specific player. I think everybody has a unique position in situation, but that's something I think teams will at least consider. And then yeah, like all the things you mentioned, I think he's just a really good player and got to show it on the biggest stage when Baylor was in the tournament. The whole shooting conversation, I would lean towards he put in the work.
Yep.
And he became a much better shooter this year. That's how I would view his shooting this year. I don't think that we need a 3-year sample size of somebody's shooting percentages to ultimately call them somebody who will project as a good shooter in the league, or at least serviceable.
Yeah, it's difficult because I felt the same way in a sense about the shooting about Jarrett Culver. And it's like you can say that second year was that last year at Texas Tech was an outlier year because he has not been able to shoot the ball in the NBA. But I just kind of have my own concerns about Texas Tech guys. They must be playing with like a bigger rim or something like that in Lubbock because their guys can shoot on paper. Like, I never saw Jemias Ramsey as a shooter, just kind of watching him in high school, and he shot a high percentage on a high volume of attempts last year. But the shooting, it didn't seem to translate in the G League bubble. That's Texas Tech guys. And that's a whole different subject right there.
Yeah. So another guy, one of the most popular players in his class, and then definitely in college basketball this year, was Sharife Cooper. Really dynamic guard, one of the best playmakers in this class. Obvious questions about his ability to shoot and really, score. I think he might be shorter than 6 foot. I saw him in a picture with Chris Paul the other day that he posted on his Instagram and later deleted. It might have been the angle, but he looked 5'10". So there's obvious questions there, and then obviously, the liability defensively. What do you think about Sharife Cooper and his, prospects as an NBA player?
He's another guy that can be kind of difficult to gauge because he's so fun to watch, and it's easy to fall in love with him because he puts on a show. What do you average, like 9 assists a game or close to it? That is crazy in college basketball. That's a number that you don't really see at like Power 5 conferences. You may see a guy in a small conference average those type of assists, but he did that. The speed and first step, in today's NBA, that's so valuable. Again, there's concerns about the shooting, concerns about his size and defense. I'm just curious to see where he ends up.
Yeah.
Because, You can say point guard is the most important position in today's NBA. And man, if he went 14th, I wouldn't be shocked. If he fell to the second round, I wouldn't be shocked either. I mean, he's definitely an acquired taste for things that are pretty much out of his control. But he's a guy that I think could really thrive in a situation where he has like a vertical lob threat and he has spacing. And with his speed, he puts so much pressure on defenses because you're not going to be able to stay in front of him. I mean, but then again, I know teams are going to go under his screens. He has a very slow shot to me. It's like a
Yeah.
slow, flat-footed three. He's going to need to definitely speed that up and, just kind of improve as a shooter. But like I said, I like him. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be able to come in and be a team starter as a rookie. I see some Ish Smith in him in a sense.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I think he's more naturally talented than Ish, but he's going to be in the league as long as his first step is there. He's a guy that's going to come in off the bench and provide energy and just kind of put a lot of pressure on defenses because he can get into the paint. But yeah, man, I think the last mock I had him going in the 20s. But like, where do you have him at in your range? Did you have him as a lottery pick, mid first round, or what?
I have Sharif Cooper at 17, somewhere in that 17 to 23, 24-ish range. I think that's, sort of the spot for him, just looking at how dynamic he is as a playmaker, making all those passes one-handed, left hand, in transition, full speed,
Yeah.
all those lobs to Thor, Flanagan, all those guys. I think the in-between game is going to be huge for him. He's adding a consistent floater.
Floater, yeah.
Yeah. So, to
That's
offset
going to
that.
be huge because he doesn't have the frame to be able to take contact. So he's going to have to definitely work on the soft touch finishes. I have him at 22 on my last mock, and it was based off of the standings, but I had him going to Houston, which I think would be a very, very good fit for him simply because he can learn from John Wall. I mean, obviously Wall is a lot bigger, but it's another guy whose game was based off of speed. And I mean, Wall was like a very, he was a good passer. Obviously, he had years where he averaged 8 or 9 assists per game. So I think that he could learn from Wall, and then he would, Houston has the luxury of being able to gamble if he doesn't work out. They got quite a few picks, and there's really no pressure to win right away. So if he can go there and just learn behind Wall, I think that would be a good fit for him.
Yeah. So moving on to who might be the most, hot topic, hottest player in the draft right now, Josh Giddey out of Australia, pretty much putting up triple doubles every game in the NBL. I'm curious to know what you think about him because the playmaking is obviously there, but you look at him as a shooter. It's not the best shooter yet. Certainly off the dribble as well. I think a lot of teams will go under on him in the NBA. Defensively, there's still a lot to work on for him. Just what are your thoughts on what he's doing right now and just him as a prospect?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case and say he's had a better season this year than what LaMelo had last year. I mean, I think you can make a really strong case for that. There are some similarities in their game. Melo's a little bit more athletic and a little craftier with the ball off the dribble, but they're both oversized point guards. They both have this, like, I mean, this creativity and confidence. Like, it's a combination of both. Like, they have the creativity, but they have this confidence to whip these passes, that a coach is gonna like pull his hair out if the pass doesn't, if it doesn't lead to a basket. But I just like how they both have this freestyling play. Both guys are, if they get the rebound, they're a threat to, score from themselves, make a play for others, triple double threats every night. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely rising up draft boards. He's someone that before he had this big run, I didn't think that he would enter the draft because he's so young. I thought he would do another year, but he's played himself into possibly like being a lottery pick. Like, I've heard quite a few people. I know Chad Ford had him as his number one international prospect. I think that, the concerns that, everyone else has are there, the lack of athleticism and foot speed. But he's like this unique prospect that even though he's not like this really good athlete, he's not a good shooter. His game is based off of getting up and down the court and making plays in transition in a fast-paced offense. And so I can't think of too many guys that their greatest strength is playing in a fast tempo offense when they're considered slow. Like when you think of usually like a guy that's like a jet or a blur that can use his speed in the open court to have a big impact, but Giddey can impact games without being fast. So he's also fun to watch, but
Yeah, for sure.
I could see him being a lottery pick.
Yeah, he's definitely in that range for me. Definitely been rising up my board with this last little run because earlier in the season I wasn't so sure, and then he had the injuries and everything. COVID started to affect him again. Um, but yeah, just somebody who really makes his team better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think a team in the late lottery range to the 20s is probably going to be able to use him in a way that is sort of what he can handle early on in his career, and I think that he can contribute in some way early on, and even with all those concerns that we listed out.
Yeah.
The
And he's
next,
so young.
yeah, for
I think
sure,
he's only 18 still. So
yeah, the next guy, probably the last one that we'll do on this, one of the more polarizing players in the class is Cam Thomas. If you watch him just for a minute, you can see like, okay, this dude has one goal in mind, and that is to score on every possession and by any means. So, what do you think about him? I think the efficiency wasn't exactly there, but he was putting up numbers that you know freshmen in the SEC just don't put up.
yeah.
And you can see the obvious scoring talent. And then going back to high school, the man was putting up points on everybody at Oak Hill, one of the best high school programs in the nation.
Might
So
as well be a
yeah,
college.
it really
They put
should.
out more pros than a lot of Power Five schools. So
Yeah, but yeah, what do you think about Cam Thomas and his game?
buckets. That's all he wants to do is get to the bucket. He's like this. He's like when I said that Giddey was this weird prospect that is slow but thrives in an up tempo game. I feel like Cam Thomas is also a weird prospect because he's not known as a slasher, right? But he gets to the free throw line at a ridiculous rate. Like, so you look at like, all right, maybe even Anthony Edwards from last year or Davion Mitchell this year, they did not get to the free throw line nowhere near as many times as Cam Thomas. And he's like this. I can't even label him a shooter. He's just a scorer.
Yeah.
He just knows how to put the ball in the basket. I mean, when he gets the ball, it's not moving anymore. It's just he's getting it up. Quick trigger. I think that he's gonna fall to late first round, and he's gonna end up going to one of these good teams and being this microwave scorer that helps them as a rookie. Like imagine him going to like the Bucks or the Lakers or Brooklyn or you know what I'm saying? Like I think he's gonna end up being like this, just this microwave scorer that's gonna win a playoff game for a team as a rookie off the bench because he's gonna end up going to like a really good team. He's not gonna be a starter. And he's just gonna come in and be a microwave. I mean, that's what I'm predicting, and I can see it happen. Similar to like I remember like Boobie Gibson
Mm.
his rookie year. Like he was like, he was a McDonald's All-American, all that. He was a scorer, but he wasn't a one. He was too small to be a two. But playing next to LeBron allowed him to do what he does best, which was knock down open shots. And he didn't have to worry about initiating the offense or anything like that. And then I don't know what happened to him after LeBron left. He just seemed like he kind of vanished.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think like Cam Thomas, if he falls like late first round, he's going to end up going to one of those teams where he has like your LeBrons or your Embiid, or he's going to have a superstar teammate that he's going to be able to get open looks off of because he's going to find a role as a complementary player. He could end up being like Buddy Hield maybe a little bit of like young Ben Gordon, but he's also a guy who I could see like being out of the league fast
Yeah.
because his game seems like it's only suited to be the man, and he may struggle in a complementary role. But no matter what, he's either going to be getting buckets in the NBA or he's going to have like a great career in like China averaging like 50 a game.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like I haven't agreed about anything more about Cam Thomas than what you said right there. I think, you know, if he does fizzle out, he's getting 70 overseas somewhere. Um, but yeah, like he's one of the tougher people for me to rank, big boards, mock drafts, just because, defensively he was horrible. Like he didn't even want to play defense a lot of the times. There was times he would just lose his man, just looking at the ball the entire like several possessions a game, and then, you know, taking that left step back pretty much every possession.
Mhm.
Um,
And he's a scorer more so than a shooter.
yeah, that's for
I mean,
sure.
he can shoot, but he's like a guy that's gonna catch. Now, when he catches fire, it's he's tough because it's going up, and he has no shame in letting it fly early in the shot clock. But it's like if he's not going to be efficient, or if he needs a bunch of reps, a bunch of shots to be effective, then I think it's going to be tough for him. And
Yeah,
like you've seen so many guys like him that just kind of bounce around in a sense. Like, I mean, and another guy that's kind of similar is like Alonzo Trier. Like he is
mm,
a scorer. I mean, a bucket. Like there's no denying that. But he's had a hard time finding a fit. Like I mean, I thought he played well in New York, and he played in the G League this year. Hasn't received a call up. I haven't even read about any interest in him. And I don't know if there's more to it than that. I don't know if it's like intel, but his game just seems to be like an acquired taste. And for whatever reasons, this year, all 30 teams have passed on him. And he's going to have to make a decision soon of, do I want to keep chasing this NBA? Do I want to go and make this money? So, um, another guy that I was really, really high on last year that I thought had a similar, like a similar situation was Grant Riller. Like I felt like either Grant Riller is going to be like a really good six man, he's going to be able to come in and contribute, or he's just gonna go overseas and get get big buckets. So it's tough to gauge, man. It's really tough to gauge because this game is so different. And if
yeah,
he's not on, then where is he contributing at?
yeah, for sure. I
And
think,
in today's NBA, there's really not a lot of there's not a lot of roster spots for volume inefficient scores that don't make players better.
yeah, I think best case scenario, he turns into maybe a version of like a Jordan Clarkson. I feel
I've
like
seen
Jordan
Buddy
Clarkson,
Hield,
yeah, Jordan Clarkson has kind of gotten to a level that I didn't think he
but he
would at
bounced
this point.
around like he in
Yeah,
L.A., Cleveland. Was there one more stop between there? Between
LA and Cleveland, but it was the LeBron team, and then you've got the Cleveland tanking team. So pretty much
Yeah,
two different teams at that point.
yeah. But I mean, he's found a way to be himself on a winning team,
Hmm.
which is good. I mean, nobody ever doubted his ability to score. And then on one hand, you felt like maybe he picked up some bad habits in L.A. because I mean they weren't winning, and he was kind of doing whatever he wanted. And then it's like he got to Cleveland, and he's always going to score, but I mean, he's been a good fit in Utah, and it took him, I don't know what, year 5 or something like that for him to like find a perfect fit for him. And like I said, I could see Cam Thomas being poor man's Ben Gordon, like a poor man's Buddy Hield in a sense. Jordan Clarkson, a microwave scorer, or I could see him like really struggling to fit.
Moving on to another topic, who's somebody you think is underrated, somebody that you think is a potential gem either in the first round, maybe a later second round guy?
Vrenz Blindberg. So when I first saw his film, I was like, I can't believe that this guy isn't being talked about as a lot to go in the first round. I mean, he's 6'10", he can handle the ball, he can make plays out of pick and rolls. He's improving as a shooter. And I mean, just in today's NBA, like a guy that is that skilled and young and can like dribble, shoot, and pass and make. Yeah, I mean, I just felt like he was sliding under the radar, but now you mean you're starting to see his name, pick up some steam, and he's kind of buzzing a little bit. I'm thankful that I was able to kind of get on him early, and he was really easy to get in touch with. Reached out to him, he did a podcast. I think he's done two for me,
Hmm.
and a really humble guy. And so I'm rooting for him. So maybe a little bit of bias because he's been on my show a couple of times, but I feel like he's still somewhat underrated. Like you hear about Garuba, you hear about Giddey, you hear about Shingun, and I think his name should be right up there with them.
How high would you take him in the draft? I'm curious because I've seen people not even mention his name at all, whether that's
Yeah,
just because they're unaware or whatever else.
yeah. I mean, I think playing in Belgium, they don't have a reputation for basketball. We kind of talked about that. You think of Belgium, you think of waffles. uh, I think that is kind of played a role in it. I remember him telling me that he could have went to like Arizona. He could have went and played like some of the Power Five schools. He could have played at Real Madrid. It was either Madrid or Barcelona. One of those programs wanted him, and he chose to stay home in Belgium. I think if he did play at one of those powerhouse programs, then I think his name would have a little bit more steam. But I mean, I can see him as a first round pick. I would definitely take a shot at him, especially if you're a team that's selecting in the mid to late first round. You're a playoff team, and you have the luxury of being able to kind of develop him and bring him along slowly.
Yeah,
If I'm a team like Oklahoma City, I'm taking him.
yeah, that's
Houston,
that
same
was how I
thing.
felt last year with Poku. I felt
Perfect.
like as long
Yep.
as he goes to a team that has the freedom to let him do stuff, he would have a chance at least.
Yeah, he's shown flashes, and he's also been awful on paper.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I've never seen a guy have so many 2 for 13 games, but he's so talented and he's so young.
yeah, that's the
And
thing.
if he would have, I don't know, it just kind of just shows how difficult it is because he couldn't play for Olympiacos last year. He wasn't. They didn't think he was good enough to play them, so he was on Olympiacos B. That's a huge jump to go from the B team to like the NBA. Then they kind of brought him along slowly for the first few weeks, and then that's like they just threw him out there after the bubble. So I think he's going to be really, really good. And I mean, I think by the time he's 21 or 22, I think he could be like one of the best players in the NBA.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any other players you think that haven't got enough traction, or somebody else who you think should be higher on boards, or at least just get a little bit more notoriety?
I think Duarte
Mm,
and Trey Mann, those two guys, very good shooters. And I mean, Duarte is his age is what's hurting him. He's maybe like what is he like 4 years older than some of the 3 years older than some of the one and done prospects. But I think it's gonna help him because I think he's definitely gonna be like what I talked about with Cam Thomas. He's going to end up on a playoff team next year and just be able to provide some depth because I think he's a first round pick. He's not a lottery pick, so I think he's a guy that's going to end up on a playoff team, and he could help a lot of playoff teams with his size and the shooting. He can score off the dribble, and his game is like it's kind of like what I said last year about Desmond Bain. He's ready to contribute right away, and I think there are a lot of teams that probably wish they would have taken Bain. I forgot, was he like 30, but he ended up going to Memphis,
yeah,
and I mean he's been knocking the ball, he's been shooting the ball well, which is what he does. So yeah, I think Duarte is going to end up on maybe like a team like Denver or something like that, and be able to have an impact as a rookie.
yeah. Those two names that you mentioned are two of my favorites in this entire draft. I think like you said, the age. I'm pretty sure he's older than Jason Tatum, so that's the main reason why Chris Duarte is
Yeah,
not getting a lot of traction. But what he showed at Oregon, as a scorer, shooter, knockdown shooter, in the pick and roll, he was really, really intriguing. And then defensively, I think I'm pretty sure he made all defensive team in the conference. Um, I think he does come in and make that impact immediately. And then Trey Mann, I thought he made a really big jump this year.
huge
Coming out
jump.
from last year, actually looked a lot bigger, more physically developed, a lot more polished. Former McDonald's All-American, so the talent was there, but everything else just kind of had to catch up to him, and he really caught on towards the end of the year. Um, Somebody I think, in my opinion, is in that lottery conversation. I don't know where he's at for you.
Yeah, he's a guy that he might need his own category of like, is there anybody that is better at creating his own shot from deep than him in this draft class? Like I forgot the stats, but I had it on my notes. It was like a ridiculous amount of his 3-point attempts were unassisted. Like he created all of them off the dribble. And yeah, I think that he could help some teams. Then he has the size to be able to play both positions. So um, he's somebody that I wouldn't be surprised to see as we get closer to draft time, his name trending upwards.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, he's so shifty. It reminds me a little bit. I don't want to make this comparison because I feel like it's already been out there, but the way CJ kind of moves, a little bit unorthodox. Um, the shin angles that he has on his crossovers and everything to sort of create space. I really like Trey Mann's game, and I think he's going to be a good player in the future.
Yep. I had him actually going to Atlanta
Mm.
on my last mock, which it's been a while. I need to update. It's probably been over a month now. But yeah, I thought him in Atlanta would be a really interesting fit playing next to Trey Young or behind Trey Young. And man, you can't leave either one of them. Both guys can get to their spots. Both guys can shoot, especially off the dribble. I think that would be a fun backcourt to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's gonna do it. I feel like we got to a lot of topics in this. Kind of wanted to keep this a little bit shorter because my last episode was almost 2 hours long, and
Oh wow.
yeah, it's the first episode, so we kind of had to do it, do what we had to do. But I appreciate you for coming on. Definitely tell all the people where they can find you on social media and then on YouTube.
Yeah, so I probably need to just have one uniform name. My name
Yeah,
is Barlow 500 on Twitter, but if you type in my name, Rafael Barlow, RAFAEL BARLOWE, you'll be able to find me. NBA Draft Junkies.com is my website. And then if you just type in NBA Draft Junkies on YouTube, which I'm pretty sure they know, not because they know my work, but if they're on your YouTube page,
yeah,
it's always going to come up as a suggestion right after that. So just like, people who are following me on YouTube, I'm pretty sure a lot of our followers are redundant. So, but yeah, I mean, that's where you can reach me at.
yeah. So if you haven't seen his stuff and his content, definitely go check it out. I appreciate you for coming on.
No problem. Thank you for having me on, especially, so early in your podcast career. I mean, this is only episode number 2. So I'm thankful that you selected me as one of the first guys to be on your show.
Yeah,
Definitely
definitely
got to
want to.
have you on mine.
Yeah,
So we'll try to schedule that within the next few weeks, and then I'm in the interview seat.
yeah, for sure. And
Oh, I forgot to mention my podcast is on Locked On
yeah,
NBA Draft on. So they just started Locked On NBA Draft. I want to say like in March. And then I have a show that's on every Monday and Thursday. But throughout the week, there's 2 other guys that have shows. If you want to listen to the podcast, that's where you can find me. I also have a
yeah,
show on Dash Radio. It's every Monday at 10 o'clock Central. It's just the NBA Draft Junkie show. And yeah, I mean, doing a couple podcasts or 3 different podcasts a week can be a little tough, but I enjoy it.
yeah. You were a highly requested guest, so I had to have you on. Definitely want to have you back on here again at some point too.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, man. We definitely need to do like a big mock draft again. I think that's where I always knew of you, but that's where we kind of like unofficially met on one of those live drafts. So definitely got to do that as we get closer to draft time.
For sure. Well, I appreciate you for coming on the pod. This is episode 2 of the Hoop Intellect podcast. I'm Keandre, your host, and I'm out.